you think about it, it kind of makes sense that a video game villain would be transfixed on you, the player. You are, after all, the main thorn in the villain's side, constantly getting in the way of their plans and foiling their every scheme. How could you? But some video game villains, oh boy, they just take it way too damn far. So let's go in and unpack that all like some pixelated therapists, shall we? I'm trusted medical professional Ewan Patterson, this is WhatCulture Gaming, and here are 10 exact moments video game villains became obsessed with you. Number 10. Shaking Izanami's hand. Persona 4. At the beginning of Persona 4, you are introduced to a nameless gas station attendant who proceeds to shake your hand and make you a bit woozy. You might just think it's the gasoline on their fingers, but no. You soon manifest powers shortly after. You likely then forgot about this mysterious woman as the game went on, but right at the end, if you put it all together right, you can go to confront the attendant, who turns out to be Izanami. See, as it turns out, the entire game has been one long litmus test for the character of the human race, with you being one of the pawns, hence all your powers. Izanami has been obsessively cataloging your progress to see who comes out on top in her little game. What costs her a higher spot on this list is that she goes final boss when she doesn't like her game's results, and you also have to share the spotlight with two other main suspects, so it isn't all about you anyway. Not that I'm jealous of the other two folks and wanted all that attention to myself or anything, but you know, they could have committed to the bit slightly harder. Number 9. Coming back from the dead. Portal 2. In the first Portal, GLaDOS didn't really hold a grudge against Chell. Her obsession was mainly rooted in there being literally no one else left for her to experiment on. This isn't a disqualifying factor for her being here, but it was a bit too impersonal for her to feature on a list of gaming's most obsessive villains. And then came Portal 2. GLaDOS awakens from her death very much steamed with Chell. As revenge for what Chell did to her in the previous game, GLaDOS decides that nothing could be worse than just picking up where they left off. And yeah, GLaDOS's hatred for Chell is the stuff of meme legend. Petty, manipulative, and single-minded in that way only a machine can be. Even after she's forced to join forces with Chell at the midpoint of Portal 2, there's a constant underlying strain to their relationship, peppered with little asides that remind you that GLaDOS still sees Chell as more of a force of nature than an actual person. Granted, you probably think everything is a force of nature if you're trapped inside of a potato, but that's by the by. Number 8. Love at First Sight. Batman Arkham Origins. Look, it wouldn't be a Ewan list if I didn't contain at least one Batman Arkham reference somewhere, so here I am with the most on-brand entry of this list. The perennially underappreciated Batman Arkham Origins. Set years before Rocksteady's seminal Arkham Asylum, Origins was presented initially as a straight-up story of Black Mask hunting an early in his career Dark Knight, hiring several expert assassins to take him down while the usual assortment of goons scream, "It's the Bat!" as you drop in from gargoyles and girders. However, Joker fatigue be damned, it turned out that the Clown Prince of Crime was actually the one responsible, with Origins instead serving as a retelling of how Batman met his most iconic arch-nemesis. We all know that the Joker is obsessed with Batman to the point of being unable to kill him, and Origins illustrates the precise moment that happened at the conclusion of its brilliant Royal Hotel sequence. After being betrayed by Bane, Joker is sent flying off the hotel roof, which leads to Batman jumping off after him. It's a great scene, well performed by Roger Craig Smith and Troy Baker, with the latter selling the moment Joker develops his crush perfectly. There's a bit of anger and disbelief at the fact he was saved, and then a moment in the back of a police cruiser where he really stews on the development. One psychological deep dive courtesy of Harley Quinn later, and voila! The Joker and Bat dynamic we all know and love is born. Man, I know I keep going on about it, but I really love this game, and it annoys me deeply we never got a remaster or a proper follow-up from WB Montreal. Maybe one of the most unfairly treated games ever? Well, let me know your thoughts in the comments. Personally, for me, Arkham fans, you never knew how good you had it. Number 7. Coming back as Meta Ridley, Metroid Prime. You would think, given their history, that Samus would be the one obsessed with Ridley. He did, after all, destroy her homeworld and personally murder her parents. But considering how many times she's killed Ridley by now, You gotta imagine she's worked through most of that. No, you want obsession? Just look at the big purple space lizard himself. This so-called pirate has come back from the dead so many times it's a running gag of the franchise. And all to get back at this one woman whose parents he killed like 20 years ago. The apex of this came in Metroid Prime, when he came back as a giant lizard robot named Meta Ridley. After his defeat in Norfair, Ridley's remains are picked up by his fellow space pirates before the planet explodes. At the order of their higher-ups, the pirates then proceed to rebuild him as a giant robot dragon monster, complete with sick-ass laser breath. And what is the first thing Ridley does with his new lease on life? You guessed it. He immediately goes after Samus again. Just the hate between these two could power an entire city for a year. Ridley will always be back to torment Samus Aran, running off pure fumes of vengeful rage alone. Number 6. Killing Handsome Jack's daughter. Borderlands 2. You are little more than a momentary amusement to Handsome Jack for the first half of Borderlands 2. He'll call you to mess with you every now and then. You've already got his dander up by surviving the train crash he orchestrated at the beginning, very rude. But besides that, it's no different than the giggling contempt which he expresses to everyone else on Pandora. Then you kill his daughter. Now, to be clear, Angel wanted to die. It was certainly a sight better than being trapped in her father's little ivory tower playing honey trap for poor treasure hunters for the rest of time, but good luck telling that to Jack, who immediately shoots Roland dead after you're done and goes on a rampage to make you, and you specifically, very, very dead. Now, his calls to you are tinged with rage, even when trying to tell a joke, and the calls come more frequently. He goes to great pains to hunt you personally, and at the end of it all, he throws it all away to challenge you just so he can avenge his daughter. That doesn't go well for him either. Number 5. Nishiki kills Matsushige, Yakuza Kiwami. In the original version of Yakuza, Nishiki was little more than the Judas who betrayed Kiryu for his own power. But if this guy was Kiryu's best buddy in the whole wide world, why would he do that? Especially when we meet him in Yakuza 0 and see that, indeed, he's the best friend a guy could possibly ask for. Well, the remake of the original game, Yakuza Kiwami, finally gives us some answers, and it's nothing good. Nishiki spends half the time Kiryu is in prison trying to make a name for himself, which is a problem when all anyone can talk about is Kiryu, usually as a negative comparison. Add on to that a dying sister that he's forced to make back-end deals to desperately try to keep alive, and subordinates who constantly undermine him, and it only gets worse. It all comes to a head when Nishiki's sister dies, and the worst of his subordinates, Matsushige, enters to rub salt in the wound. He says the word Kiryu one last time, and just like that, he's a dead man. Nishiki snaps, stabbing Matsushige to death, and covered in his blood, vows to reach the top of Dojima Clan and surpass Kiryu once and for all. Number 4. Entering Silent Hill, Silent Hill 2. Silent Hill takes different forms depending on the game you consult, but Silent Hill 2 gives the most unique version of the haunted town by envisioning it as the worst therapy you can ever get. A town that forces you to either confront your inner demons or be literally swallowed up by them. And it goes about doing this by turning itself into a meticulously crafted personal hell for whatever poor dumbass sets foot there. Enter James Sunderland. Although rather impersonal as an obsession, the town of Silent Hill centers on James as its new favorite plaything the moment he sets foot within its city limits. It sends the iconic Pyramid Head after him, forces him to traverse multiple areas symbolic of his emotional descent, and even confronts him with the crime he committed that sent him into Silent Hill's arms to begin with. All seemingly in a Jigsaw-esque attempt to make him a better person, but it's hard to tell with this town and how it works. It might have just done all this just to mess with him, and yeah, it is run by a Shiba Inu. You know how those guys are. Number 3. Confidant 8, Persona 5 Royal. Akechi and Joker's rivalry is the highlight of Persona 5's story, going from friendly to violent over the course of the game. But Royal decided to give a bit more meat to the bone by making Akechi's confidant something you actually had to work on, instead of one that naturally progressed through the game. This culminates in the final Akechi confidant of Royal, a fan favorite sequence, Confidant 8. Akechi brings Joker down into Mementos to talk to him about something. He then pulls the gun on him and says that he wants to fight. You have to win in order to complete the Confidant and get Akechi's Persona evolution. This, however, sets Joker and Akechi's destinies in stone, as Akechi throws a challenging glove at Joker and admits that he hates him. The two have lived such different lives and stand on such different grounds that there can be nothing in Akechi's heart for Joker but an obsessive rage, a need to prove that his way is better than Joker's. Number 2. Xenos kills himself. Final Fantasy XIV Stormblood. Xenos is the perfect mirror to Final Fantasy XIV's Warrior of Light because he is a sociopathic, fight-hungry misanthrope who only lives to kill as many people as he can. In other words, he is what an MMO character would probably look like to those around them. However, the difference is that Xenos has lived his entire life in a state of ennui, unable to truly slake his thirst for battle with the dregs that life throws his way. Easily tossed aside and more easily forgotten. And then you come along. Over the course of Stormblood, Xenos grows slowly more fixated on you, realizing that you and he are of the same breed. Both beasts who live for the hunt, but nothing else in this world could possibly sustain you. After you defeat him at the end of Stormblood, Xenos admits to feeling more alive than he ever had before. Fighting you felt more real than anything else he had ever experienced. Don't let it go to your head. Realizing that he will never get to feel this way again, Xenos decides to end it all on his terms, taking his katana and all but beheading himself with a smile, calling you his very first friend. He then comes back from the dead not 5 patches later, out of a sheer bottomless need to fight you again. That is some serious dedication. And number 1, before the beginning of the game, Infamous. Is there a more PS3 exclusive than the first Infamous? Just look at how grey this thing is. If that doesn't scream I was made in 2009, then I don't know what does. Well, anywho, the entire story of Infamous is a closed time loop set in motion by the future version of main character Cole, who goes by the name Kessler throughout the game. In Kessler's time, he got powers just like Cole, but didn't really use them the same way he did. So when a mysterious and all-powerful beast appears and starts wreaking havoc, he takes his wife and kids and runs. And he kept running, all up until the beast caught up with them and killed everyone he loved. So, Future Cole used his newest ability to try and set things right. He set himself on a one-way trip back in time, founded the villainous organization the First Sons, and set the entire game in motion, all with the sole intent of making Cole into the world's greatest superhero. Kessler reduced Empire City to a Mad Maxian nightmare, unleashed untold horrors onto the world, killed Cole's girlfriend Trish, turned Cole's best buddy Zeke against him, and regardless of Cole's morality at the end, Kessler still gets his wish. Cole will be ready whenever the beast arrives. Kessler's obsession began before you even hit start on the game, and it defines the entire story of Infamous. Some next level obsession right there.